Hi guys, am I audible? So let's continue. So we were supposed to do from here. So once you've made an index, right? We all know what an index is. We saw three major ways of constructing an index. We saw the advantages and disadvantages of each of those methods, right? Now, once you've constructed an index, you need to rebalance it. You need to rebalance it because there's going to be whatever may be our original, what I would call, whatever be our original idea, right? Because the share prices keep on moving, the market cap will keep on moving, the index will deflect from what it actually wanted to do. So we need to bring it back to the original plan or the original idea of that index, right? That is rebalancing. You basically rebalance it to bring in line with what the index should replicate. So for example, Sensex is the index of top 30 stocks by market capitalization, right? But the prices of the shares keep on moving up and down. You will have few companies in the top 30. So you take the top 30 and make them bring them in one index, that is Sensex. You give them weights according to their market cap. Now what happens is your stock prices keep on moving up and down. Few companies will fall below the 30 rank and few companies will enter in that 30 rank. So let's say two companies ka stock price have fallen, it became 31 and 32nd, and two other companies have taken their place, right? Moreover, so that will be reconstitution. Moreover, the weights assigned will also keep on changing based on the movement of the stock, right? So what will happen is you need to rebalance. So for example, let's say Reliance just keeps on increasing in price way more than what the other constituents are increasing, or the way constituents are being moving. So Reliance ka weight will keep on increasing. So Sensex mein Reliance ka weight has to be kept on increasing because Reliance ka market cap is increasing. Right? So in the top 30, the proportion that Reliance had kept on increasing. Right? So that is rebalancing. So basically rebalancing refers to adjusting the weights of the security in the portfolio to the target weight after price changes have affected the weight. So if we have a, let's say we've got a price weighted index, or we might get a market cap weighted index. So we have to keep on adjusting those, right, based on the price movement. That is basically rebalancing. You basically rebalance and align it to the goal, right? For index calculation, rebalancing to target weights on the index security is done on a periodic basis, usually quarterly. So you'll have a predetermined date when it's going to be rebalanced. And based on that particular date, this happens. I'll tell you one of the things which is happening in capital markets. So hota kya hai, there is something called as MSCI World Index, right? Emerging Market Index. MSCI has a lot of indexes, and a lot of funds have been developed based on those indexes. तो उसमें क्या होता है कि a company enters, let's say an Indian company might enter into that emerging market index, something might get. So we come to know beforehand कि कौन सी कंपनी की increase probability बढ़ गई है उस index में जाने की. होता क्या है, as soon as a company enters an index, index funds have to compulsorily buy that company, right? So suddenly there's a lot of demand for that company. And similarly, if a company is going to exit a particular index funds have to sell that particular stock, right? So there is artificial supply, and there's a lot of supply that comes on board. Similarly, if someone has entered, a lot of supply, demand comes up for that stock. So some people trade on that. What they do is they try to figure out which companies are going to move into the index, and based on that, they buy it and they short if someone is going to go. In fact, D-Shaw has a strategy on this. So they've kind of made algos are there. So those algos keep on searching, and they kind of figure out that these companies in all likelihood are going to be entering this particular index. So then they'll go ahead and buy that. And if this company is going to go exit out of this index, they particularly go ahead and sell that. So in India, में जुगाड़ूगिरी बहुत होता है, a lot of people do this. But yeah, so this can be one way. I'll tell you another thing that is happening right now in the markets. There's a company called Adani Green, right? It's promoted by the Adani Group. Don't quote me anywhere, but उसमें पूरा झोल है, right? That stock has been झोल. अब होगा क्या if it just keeps on increasing like that? Ruchi Soya झोल है, Adani झोल है. So होगा क्या कि if if it increases and becomes among the top 50 in terms of market cap, then it has to be compulsorily added to Nifty, which is the top 50 by market cap. Nifty का जो index है, that is top 50 market cap companies. So होगा क्या now? Compulsorily, a lot of index funds. Index funds are not that big in India, but they're very big abroad, and they have a lot of index funds have Indian stocks as well. And then there are Nifty index funds. So they'll have to compulsorily buy the stock. So that will create artificial demand. And even if the fund manager or the people at that fund house might know that the stock is bad, they'll have to buy it because that's a rule. They'll have to buy it if the mandate is so. So this is normally what happens. You've got to buy and sell. You've got to rebalance. Reconstitution मतलब एक को निकाला दूसरे को डाला. Rebalancing मतलब उसमें से कितना weights ऊपर नीचे कर रहा है, that is rebalancing. Now, because weights in price and value weighted index are adjusted to correct values by change in prices, rebalancing is issue primarily for equal weighted index. अब होता क्या है? If you have a price weighted and value weighted is basically a market cap, right? Price and value weighted. Normally, उनका ऐसे भी adjustments होता है because correct value by changes in price. Because price के हिसाब से ही weights assign है, तो as prices are moving, your weights any which ways get assigned. So rebalancing becomes an issue primarily for equal weighted index. Equal weighted index मतलब सब में equal amount डाल दिया है, right? The weights on the security return is initially equal weighted are not equal as security prices change over a period of time. Obviously, yes, because now your weights are not going to move in line with your change in prices. Why? Because you've put equal amounts in all of them. So if the stock price was less, then the number of shares bought would be higher, right? And the stock price is high, then the number of shares bought would be less. Therefore, rebalancing a portfolio at the end of each period used to calculate independent returns is necessary for portfolio returns to match the index returns. So rebalancing is very, very important when it comes down to equally weighted portfolio, and you have to do that if you're managing a portfolio which mimics that particular index. If you're running an index fund, you have to rebalance it in order to match the returns of that index, right? Then you've got index reconstitution. Rebalancing था weights को ऊपर नीचे जो हुआ है उसको align करना. Reconstitution मतलब निकालना और ऐड करना. जो मैंने आपको बोला ना कि दो कंपनीज का मार्केट कैप गिर गया है और फिर उसकी जगह उसको रिप्लेस करेंगे और दो. If those two became 31st and 32nd, then two other companies will be added there, and they will be part of Sensex. Securities are deleted if they no longer meet the index criteria and are replaced by other securities that do. So right, they're removed. And index are reconstituted to reflect corporate events such as bankruptcy or delisting of index firms and are at subjective judgment of the committee, right? For example, I'll give you a live example. Vedanta is getting delisted, right? So the resolution has been passed. So even before the delisting, it will be removed. It will be removed. So there's a committee which will decide. So this corporate events such as bankruptcy and delisting are something which the committee will do way before actually happens, because if they don't do that, then it will be difficult for index funds to exit. So the idea again is you need to remember that are reconstituted to reflect corporate events such as bankruptcy and delisting and are subjective judgment of the committee. So the committee will decide, right? In such cases. Now, when a security is added to an index, its price tends to move as portfolio managers seeking to track that index by obviously yes. The price of deleted जिनको निकाल दिया उनकी गिरेगी because everyone has to sell them. Sorry. Now, note that additions and deletions also require that the weights on the return. So addition and deletion also require that weights on the returns of other index stocks need to be adjusted to conform to the desired weighing stage. Obviously, yes. So everything gets changed. दो को निकाला तो बाकियों का weight change होगा. A lot of things. It's very dynamic, right? So it's kind of very dynamic. अगर दो को निकाला तो बाकियों का भी weights change होगा, internal weights. क्योंकि बाकी दो जो आए उनका market cap क्या है वो देखना पड़ेगा. Now, why are these security market indexes in the first place are constructed? ये सब करी क्यों है? क्यों बनाते हैं index? सबसे पहले index in many cases reflect करता है market का sentiment. Right. So Sensex might be only top 30 stocks, Nifty might be only top 50 stocks. But what happens is they tell you कि भाई overall confidence या sentiment क्या चल रहा है. Second, benchmark of a manager performance. Every fund has to lay out what is its benchmark compulsorily, except for hedge fund. every buy only, long only, normal fund has to give out their benchmark. So usse kya hota hai, you can evaluate the performance of the active manager. So the idea is that if you buy the index, you don't have to pay much. Index funds mein management fees bahut kam hota hai. But if you kind of buying in a fund where the active manager is saying I will go for large cap stocks, then Sensex or Nifty might be his benchmark. So हम benchmark के सामने अगर benchmark 10% बड़ा है और उसने भी 10% रिटर्न निकाला है, then he's not added any value. But अगर benchmark 10% बड़ा है and he's scored 15-20%, then he's added value. और अगर benchmark 10% गिरा है and if he's down only 5%, then also he's added value. So basically benchmark becomes your index becomes a benchmark. Index becomes a benchmark. उसके सामने हम judge करेंगे whether he's doing, how he's doing or what is he doing. So the idea is that any which way अगर stock बढ़ा है तो आपने क्या value add किया, right? So you compare it with mid cap, you compare it with small cap, depending on the fund का mandate, you kind of have a benchmark, which ideally is a index. Measure of market return and risk, right? You need historical returns, right? You need historical expected return, standard deviation, etc. You know, do all your asset allocation. When you do portfolio management, you will do in detail the capital asset pricing model theory and stuff like that. But the idea again is you need previous returns, right? In order to decide कि आपको equity mid cap में कितना डालना है, small cap में, basically asset allocation, right? So you need past का data of market return and risk जो आपको index से मिल जाता है, because वो आपको पूरे asset class का return दे देता है. So metal index will give you metal space ने कैसा क्या है, real estate index will give you real estate as an asset class, stocks ने कैसा किया है, and all of that. Measure of beta and risk adjusted premium. Again, for under the capital asset pricing model, to estimate a stock expected return, we require to estimate its beta and the return on the market. I guess we've done that in capital in your corporate finance as well. So you need beta and you need the return on the market, right? But for me to get beta, I need to get the market return and market volatility, right? And that figure I get through to calculate beta. I need this, and for that figure I use index ka portfolio returns, because index ka portfolio return represent market ka data, right? Now expected returns can also be compared to actual stock market returns to determine a system. So आप उनके सामने देखते हो कि मेरे को कितना रिटर्न आना चाहिए और नॉर्मली कितना रिटर्न आता है इस पर्टिकुलर एसेट क्लास में. मॉडल पोर्टफोलियोज फॉर इंडेक्स फंड्स, ऑब्वियसली इंडेक्स फंड्स रेप्लिकेट करती है इंडेक्स को, तो उनको पता होना चाहिए कि कौन सा स्टॉक क्या प्रोपोर्शन में लेना है, क्या वेट्स में लेना है. उनके लिए इंडेक्स फंड्स के लिए इंडेक्स चाहिए. So what happens is normally a lot of indexes get constructed because there's a demand from the index fund industry, from the fund management industry, right? इसीलिए परवड़ता है इतने सारे इंडेक्स बनाना अलग अलग तरीके से. So अगर मुझे कोई फंड लॉन्च करना है, इंडेक्स फंड से, let's say value fund or something like that, I might put at something की low price to book value, very low PE वाला कोई फंड बनाओ, इंडेक्स बनाओ, एक क्राइटेरिया यूज करके इंडेक्स बनाओ, फिर मेरा इंडेक्स फंड उस इंडेक्स को रेप्लिकेट करेगा, something of that sort, right? Now, what are the types of equity index funds? You've got broad, so these are broadly how equity indexes can be classified. Any questions, guys? Any questions? It's all kind of very easy, yeah. So I'm just going another. Cool. Let me continue. So, type of equity indexes. They can be classified in various ways. Let's look at each one of them. I'm going by the Schweizer thing. You can just also scribble anything on your Schweizer. You can keep your Schweizer in front of you and just do. This whole entire thing is Schweizer thing. I've kind of modeled all the slides on Schweizer. So yeah, your index funds can be classified as broad market index funds. They're a measure of market ka overall performance and usually contains more than 90%. So basically, इसमें maximum number of stocks ले लिया है, right? So broadly, broad market को ये करता है, दिखा रहा है आपको, रिप्रेजेंट करता है. देन यू हैव मल्टी मार्केट इंडेक्स फंड्स. यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि मल्टीपल मार्केट से सिक्योरिटीज को लिया गया है. सो यू माइट, सो MSCI वर्ल्ड इंडेक्स होता है, पूरे वर्ल्ड का सब, ऑलमोस्ट ऑल काइंड ऑफ, यू नो, दे हैव सम क्राइटेरिया एंड दे काइंड ऑफ टेक रिफ्लेक्टिव एंड इट रिफ्लेक्ट्स एंटायर मार्केट, वर्ल्ड का इक्विटी मार्केट्स का सेंटिमेंट्स. देन यू गॉट इमर्जिंग मार्केट इंडेक्स. MSCI का इमर्जिंग मार्केट इंडेक्स भी है. MSCI इज अ वेरी बिग नेम in your index listing. They're a very big employer also in India. It's used to measure the equity returns of geographical regions. So for example, you might have Latin America, You might have Southeast Asia, you might have South Asia, you might have Asia related funds. You can build any, you know, market में जो demand होगा investor से asset management company ऐसे fund बना index बना देती है, फिर उसका index fund launch कर देती है, right? Then you've got with fundamental weighings. Now what we've done is normally we've seen price and market weighted, so we can also develop index with fundamental weighings. So instead of using market cap, what we'll use is we'll use some fundamental factor, right? It can be any fundamental factor. So we can say based on GDP of that particular country, वो weights assign होंगे उस country को, फिर उस country के अंदर जो कोई एक particular criteria use करके stocks को add किया जाएगा multi market index में. Now what happens is this prevents unnecessarily overweighing. होता क्या है, index investing is all have inbuilt momentum investing in them. So what exactly is momentum investing? Momentum investing is basically that जो बढ़ रहा है ना उसको खरीदो और जो गिर रहा है उसको बेच दो, राइट? जो मोमेंटम चल रहा है उसका फायदा उठाओ. सो अब इंडेक्स में भी क्या होता है, जब स्टॉक बढ़ता है तो उसका वेट बढ़ते जाता है, वेट बढ़ते जाता है. एंड इफ इट एंटर्स दैट लेट्स से टॉप 30 बिकम्स पार्ट ऑफ सेंसेक्स, राइट? सो यू काइंड ऑफ बिकॉज इट्स ऑन द अपस्विंग यू काइंड ऑफ बाय इट, एंड अगर कुछ कारण से करेक्ट हुआ है तो भी काइंड ऑफ सेल इट. वैल्यू इन्वेस्टिंग इज उसका एग्जैक्ट उल्टा, जैसे तब खरीदो जब गिर रहा है, तब किसी को नहीं लेना है. So it's kind of momentum investing but index investing or index funds and all have inbuilt momentum in them. So when you make a multi-market, when you make an index with fundamental weighings, now you remove this factor. कि जो previously high stock returns है, जिसका stock price ज़्यादा बढ़ा है वही add होगा, वैसा नहीं होगा, because you kind of using other factors to decide whether to add or remove, right? So sector index ये आपको दिखाता है वो सेक्टर ने कैसे परफॉर्म करा है. सो यू गॉट हेल्थ केयर इंडेक्स, फाइनेंशियल, इन इंडिया यू हैव गॉट बैंक एक्स, यू गॉट अदर हर सेक्टर का खुद का है, पीएसयूज का खुद का है, ऑल ऑफ दैट. इट टेल्स यू कि क्या चल रहा है. नाउ इन्वेस्टर यूज कर सकते हैं इंडेक्सेस इन सिक्लिकल एनालिसिस बिकॉज सम सेक्टर्स डू बेटर देन अदर्स इन वेरियस फेजेस ऑफ बिजनेस साइकिल. आप यूज कर सकते हो बिकॉज सम सेक्टर विल डू बेटर देन अदर इन सम इंडेक्स. सो समझो मेटल की हालत लगी हुई तो यू कैन बाय मेटल इंडेक्स नाउ, right, and then kind of sell it. You don't have to identify which company is doing the best. You just have to identify that the metal space is very, very cheap. And because if it's very, very cheap, I'll go ahead and buy metal index. When I say, and when I realize that metal has gone into a bullish territory, crazily bullish territory, then I'll sell those index. So I can take tactical calls on that index, on that sector through buying the index. Index खरीदा तो पूरा के पूरा sector trade कर दिया, right? Rather than identifying individual companies in there. Sector indices can be good for a particular country or global. Can be also for particular country or global. So for example, there might be a index which tracks metal space all across the world. I might go and buy if I'm kind of bullish or there, right? So you can do that as well. Again, having said this, index बनते हैं demand पे, तो कैसे भी बना देते हैं, मतलब जो demand आई है वैसे. These indexes are also used to evaluate portfolio manager and to construct index portfolios. These are two very major reasons why indexes are constructed. Style index. Style index basically measures एक पर्टिकुलर स्टाइल, अगर फिल्टर डाला वो पर्टिकुलर स्टाइल का, तो उसमें जो स्टॉक्स आते हैं उसका इंडेक्स बनाते हैं, राइट? सो फॉर एग्जांपल यू माइट हैव क्राइटेरिया सच एज प्राइस टू बुक वैल्यू शुड बी लेस देन 2, पी शुड बी लेस देन 10, ऐसे कुछ बेसिक वैल्यू वाले क्राइटेरिया डाल दिए और फिर उसको वैल्यू इंडेक्स बता दिया, राइट? मोमेंटम के क्राइटेरिया डाल के स्टॉक सेलेक्ट किया, उसको मोमेंटम इंडेक्स में, कि ये क्राइटेरिया से जो स्टॉक्स एक्सीड करेगा, ये क्राइटेरिया को मीट करेगा, उसको हम इंडेक्स में ऐड कर देंगे, सीधा हिसाब है, राइट? सो दैट इज बेसिकली स्टाइल इंडेक्स. सो दैट इंडेक्स रिफ्लेक्ट्स अ पर्टिकुलर स्टाइल. सम इंडेक्सेस रिफ्लेक्ट अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ टू. एग्जांपल स्मॉल कैप वैल्यू फंड. सो स्मॉल कैप के अंदर लेट्स से 100 करोड़ व्हाटएवर क्राइटेरिया आपने डाल दिया, उसमें आपने बोला कि जो सस्ता होगा, सस्ते के भी आपने रेशियोज डाल दिए, उनको आपने एक इंडेक्स बनाया और वो एक पर्टिकुलर स्टाइल को रिफ्लेक्ट करता है कि भाई मैं वैल्यू इन्वेस्टिंग करता हूँ स्मॉल कैप्स में, तो वो जो इंडेक्स होगा वो उसको रिफ्लेक्ट करेगा. और फिर वैसे अगर कोई फंड चल रहा है एक्टिव, तो उसके सामने वो इंडेक्स बेंचमार्क भी बन जाएगा अगेन. और there is no standard definition for large cap, mid cap and small cap, so every index maker will use their own definitions. These definitions will specify value of market cap or relative definitions such as, so वो अपने खुद के definitions different criteria डालेंगे. In constructing value stock, growth stock indexes, price to earning ratios or dividend yields are often used to identify value or growth stocks, right? अब इसमें growth stocks भी होते हैं कि भाई जिसका revenue एक exceeding percentage से grow हो रहा है, वो ग्रोथ स्टॉक गिना जाता है. Value stock will be the ones which are basically selling very cheap. Now, over a period, obviously they're going to migrate. If the company is growing, it will go from small cap to mid cap to large cap. It might become from value. It might become a growth stock, stuff like that. Right? This causes style indexes to typically have high turnover of constituent firms than broad market indexes. Because these companies keep moving from here and there, style indexes will have way larger reconstitution or turnover than your normal broad market. Broad market में anyway जो 90% stocks तो already included है, तो उसमें से movement होने का chance बहुत कम रहता है. Now then comes down to fixed income indexes. Fixed income के भी indexes बनते हैं, but fixed income में problem क्या होता है पता है? The number of securities, variety जो बोलते हैं securities का बहुत ज़्यादा है. For example, Reliance might have 10-15 types of different bonds, different coupon rates, different structures, different maturity, etc. issued, right? One company can have multiple, and then imagine the number of companies. Then you've got government which issues, then you've got government, quasi-governmental bodies which issues, and everyone have their different coupon rate, rating, maturities. They might have embedded options such as convertible bond है नहीं है, etc. So बहुत ही ज़्यादा है. So इसलिए index बनाना difficult होता है. Consequently, बहुत ही the number of indexes भी ज़्यादा है to accompany various styles, various stuff, various conditions, etc. Obviously, fixed income में भी जो इंडेक्स बनते हैं वो जोग्राफी के लिए बनते हैं, जोग्राफिकल रीजन के लिए बनते हैं, लेवल ऑफ कंट्री की इकोनॉमिक इन सब के लिए बनते हैं. They can also be constructed based on the type of issuer or collateral, coupon, maturity, default risk or inflation protection. So you can basically make it the way you want it, right? कि मुझे ट्रिपल ए वाला ही चाहिए, मुझे कूपन पेमेंट 10% के ऊपर ही चाहिए, मुझे मेच्योरिटी 5 years के अंदर चाहिए, या मुझे डिफॉल्ट रिस्क ऑलमोस्ट नहीं चाहिए, या इन्फ्लेशन प्रोटेक्टेड बॉन्ड्स ही चाहिए, whatever. So you've got broad market indexes which basically represents the vast majority of the market. You've got sector indexes, बोलेगा मुझे सिर्फ बॉन्ड चाहिए बट सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट का चाहिए, मुझे बॉन्ड चाहिए सिर्फ पावर सेक्टर इंडस्ट्रीज का चाहिए, basically something like that. Then you've got style indexes. The style index is basically different kinds of style, right? In that you might have convertible कोई करता है तो कोई सिर्फ ट्रिपल ए करता है तो whatever. और आप बहुत सारे specialized indexes बना सकते हो. Now there are various issues that kind of pop up with the construction of fixed income indexes. So first, there is a very large universe of securities. The number of securities is very, very large. So globally, bond market is bigger. Commodity markets are the biggest. Bond market is also very big. Then there is comparison to equity markets. और दूसरा प्रॉब्लम क्या आता है कि stocks are still liquid. A lot of bonds are not that liquid. So अगर वो इंडेक्स से निकला दूसरे को ऐड करना है तो खरीदना बेचना बहुत मुश्किल होता है, because they are kind of very illiquid. Market impact बहुत ज़्यादा होगा. Then dealer market and infrequent trading, right? बहुत सारे जो fixed income securities है, those are primarily traded by dealers. So index provider को depend करना पड़ता है dealer पे for recent prices. There is no very ready electronic market there. है और बहुतों के लिए नहीं भी है. तो dealer ने लास्ट क्या ट्रेड किया था, dealer क्या रेट बोल रहा है उसके हिसाब से डिसाइड करना पड़ता है, right? Now, because fixed income securities are typically liquid, a lack of recent trades may require index provider to estimate the value of the index from recent prices of the security with similar. अब कोई इंडेक्स कोई बॉन्ड है वो ट्रेड ही नहीं हुआ है 6 महीने से, मुझे उसका प्राइस चाहिए तो मैं कैसे दूंगा? मतलब 6 महीने पहले तो कंडीशन कुछ और थी तो वो प्राइस रिफ्लेक्ट नहीं करता है, वही सेम प्राइस अभी भी है. What I do is I kind similar kind of bonds, similar kind of maturity, similar kind of coupon, similar kind of rating, similar kind of issuer, और फिर उसका जो प्राइसेस में मूवमेंट है उसके हिसाब से मैं अपना इसको एडजस्ट करता हूं. There is an element of subjectivity here, right? और बिकॉज ट्रांजैक्शन कॉस्ट बहुत ज़्यादा है और इतने सारे होते हैं, इलिक्विड होते हैं, इसलिए इंडेक्स फंड्स जो बनते हैं, राइट, विच रेप्लिकेट अ पर्टिकुलर फिक्स्ड इनकम इंडेक्स, वो इतना ज़्यादा उसको रेप्लिकेट करने का कोशिश नहीं करते. अगर थोड़ा सा है तो थोड़ा सा कुछ मूवमेंट हुआ है, कोई इलिक्विड बॉन्ड है तो वो लोग खरीदने नहीं जाते हैं, राइट, बिकॉज पूरा उसको 100% रेप्लिकेट करने का कॉस्ट बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाएगा, बिकॉज इट्स हाईली इलिक्विड. Then let's look at the other indexes which represent alternative investments. So you've got indexes for commodities, you've got indexes for real estate, you've got indexes for hedge funds as well. They serve the same purpose that these guys do, the normal equity indexes do. So you've got commodity indexes, you've got commodities like grains, livestock, metal, energy, etc. Example in our Commodity Research Bureau index, और गोल्डमैन सैक्स का कमोडिटी इंडेक्स पहले जो जाना जाता था, जो अभी S&P GSCI है. The issue in commodity index, which is relevant for investors, guys. So this Zoom might end up in 40 minutes. We'll connect again in case if our session we still left, we need more ground to cover. We'll connect again immediately. So any questions, guys? Because this is kind of very simple stuff that I'm just rushing through. Any questions? Any doubts? Anything you want to ask? Although this is very simple, but it's very useful in your day-to-day working, in case if you work in equity markets. Any questions, guys? Fair enough. I'm rushing ahead. Cool. So let's look at the issues that are relevant for commodity indexes for investors. First of all, they use a variety of weighing schemes. Again, how do I decide कि समझो if I decide ferrous metal index, how do I decide iron ore को कितना देना है, दूसरे को कितना देना है? मतलब बहुत डिफिकल्ट हो जाएगा, राइट? बहुत डिफिकल्ट हो जाएगा. तो आई हैव टू डिसाइड कि किस हिसाब से वे करना है. सो वो बहुत सब्जेक्टिव हो जाता है. तो डिफरेंट होता है. जैसे ग्लोबल प्रोडक्शन वैल्यू यूज कर सकता हूँ, उनकी प्राइस के हिसाब से डिसाइड कर सकते. सो इट बिकम्स वेरी सब्जेक्टिव. देयर आर मल्टीपल वेज ऑफ डूइंग इट. एज और इसकी वजह से जो भी डिफरेंट इंडेक्सेस बनते हैं, दे हैव वेरी सिग्निफिकेंटली डिफरेंट कमोडिटी एक्सपोजर. सबका वेट्स बहुत अलग होगा, इसलिए कमोडिटी का एक्सपोजर अलग अलग होगा, और इस वजह से रिस्क और रिटर्न कैरेक्टरिस्टिक भी बहुत ही अलग होगी. इसके रिटर्न कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स भी बहुत अलग होगी. फॉर एग्जांपल, one index may have large exposure to energy commodities, or other might have a very large exposure to agricultural products. Then normally commodity index जो होते हैं, those are based on the price of commodity future contracts, और ना कि spot prices. So they basically more based out of the commodity का future prices rather than spot prices. Commodity future contract reflect the risk-free rate of return, changes in future price and roll yield. So उसमें commodity price है influenced by your risk-free rate, future में क्या prices हो रहे हैं, और roll yield क्या है, right? Furthermore, contract mature and must be replaced by other contract. For these reasons, the return on commodity futures differ from the return on long position in commodity itself. Example, if I go ahead and buy a commodity index for, let's say, steel, so my returns on that will be different from actually buying steel on the ground and keeping it in my godown. It's going to be different because वहाँ पे the price are going to be determined by your price of commodity future. These things are important. ये वाला part, these are questionable material. Then you've got real estate index. They are constructed using return based on. ना प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है कि रियल एस्टेट इज नॉट दैट लिक्विड. सो घर, उस इलाके में जितने भी घर, बिल्डिंग्स, कमर्शियल बिल्डिंग्स है, वो रोज ट्रेड नहीं होती है. सो आई डोंट गेट द लाइव प्राइसेस, आई ओनली गेट द प्राइसेस व्हेन डील्स हैपन, राइट? So what I do is I can construct an index based on appraisal of property. So there is regular appraisal of property which is done. Then I can use factors such as repeat property sales. उस एरिया में वापस सेल क्या है, so that will determine per square feet rate. Performance of REITs. So REITs basically are you kind of mutual funds where your asset is basically investment. So let's example, अपने क्लास में तो 30 लोग हैं, 30 लोग हैं, 30 लोगों ने पैसा पूल करके कुछ कमर्शियल रियल एस्टेट खरीद लिया और बोला कि जो रेंट आएगा वो प्रपोर्शन ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट है, सबको बांटा जाएगा. So that becomes an example of REIT, right? That becomes an example of REIT. So some of those REITs are traded on the exchange like closed-ended mutual funds. उनका प्राइस रोज ऊपर नीचे होता है. Based on that also you can appraise कि रियल एस्टेट का परफॉर्मेंस कैसा है, right? Real properties are illiquid. REIT shares trade like common shares and offer very good liquidity to investors. That's a benefit of owning a REIT. FTSE International produce करता है एक family of REIT indexes. बहुत सारे REIT indexes वो बनाता है. Then you've got hedge funds. Very difficult to make an index, but still people try. Hedge fund pool. They basically pool money from very rich individuals and kind of invest. They invest in non-traditional assets. They can invest anywhere, right? They can use leverage, use derivative contracts, go long, go short, buy commodity, whatever, buy emerging markets, anything. So it's very difficult because there's no uniformity in these points, right? Most hedge fund index equally weigh the returns of the hedge funds included in the index. So normally जो बनाते हैं तो उनके जो returns आ रहे हैं वो include करके सबको equally weight दे दिए जाते हैं. और बिकॉज दे आर नॉट रेगुलेटेड वेरी दैट स्ट्रिक्टली, सो आइडियली होता क्या है कि उन पे कोई कंपल्शन नहीं अपना रिटर्न्स मार्केट में प्रॉपरली पब्लिश करना या कोई स्पेसिफिक फॉर्मेट में पब्लिश करना। इस वजह से डेटा मिलना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है। कुछ फंड जो होते हैं एक इंडेक्स को रिपोर्ट करते हैं कि मेरा क्या रिटर्न आया, दूसरे को नहीं करते। मोर ओवर जो हेज फंड्स बंद हो गए, मर गए, उनका तो रिटर्न अभी मिलेगा ही नहीं, जो चल रहे हैं उनका ही मिलता है। सो नॉर्मली द इंडेक्स वुड हैव एन अपवर्ड बायस बिकॉज ऑफ दैट। सो जो मर गए वो दिखेगा नहीं, तो जितना रिस्क है उससे कम रिस्क अपने को लगेगा। Furthermore, it is the case that most hedge funds report are funds that have been successful, poorly do not want to publicize. जो poor performance कर रहे हो तो डेटा ही नहीं देते बाहर या बंद हो जाते हैं, so इससे प्रॉब्लम होता है। Funds that have reported in the past but have reported poor returns will stop reporting. जिनका poor return था पहले वो तो बताएंगे नहीं। So again, this has an upward bias in the index returns. इस वजह से क्या होता है, please mark this in your book, upward bias. और क्यों होता है वो भी देख लीजिए। This is a questionable material. हेज फंड्स अपीयरिंग टू बी बेटर इन्वेस्टमेंट एक्चुअली यार, इसलिए जो इंडेक्स दिखाएगा वो ज्यादा रिटर्न दिखाएगा, क्योंकि जो लूजर्स थे उनको तो निकाल दिया ना आपने, वो तो गिर गए अपने आप, तो आपका जो इंडेक्स में रिटर्न आएगा वो ज्यादा लगेगा आपको। देयर इज एन अपवर्ड बायस। सो लास्ट इज योर on your book, Shweta ka book is your compare types of security market index. I guess there's nothing in that, you just have to read it to understand. So we are kind of done with this chapter. Do you have any questions? It's a pretty easy, straightforward chapter, pretty easy.
Could you repeat the hedge fund index, the upward bias thing again?
So what happens is, what happens is your so example, there were 10 funds in the index, and 2 of them did very badly and they kind of exited, right? बंद हो गए वो, तो ऑब्वियसली उनको अपना डेटा दे ही नहीं रहे, तो अब वो इंडेक्स में है ही नहीं। एंड जो अच्छे परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं वो अपना डेटा दिए जा रहे हैं। सो जो बुरे परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं या तो वो खुद बंद हो गए या वो अपना डेटा देना बंद कर देते हैं। सो जो अच्छे परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं उनका ही डेटा मिलता है, जो बुरा परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं उनका डेटा ही नहीं मिलता है। सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज योर इंडेक्स शोज बेटर रिटर्न दैट व्हाट एक्चुअली इट इज, राइट? So it's like this in your class, people who are flunked or people who failed or having less marks, they don't want to submit their marks only in calculating of the average. So your average will look much better, no? समझ रहे हो? When you calculate the class average, you should include all of them. But people who failed or people who went out of the system, they just don't want to give their data. वो include ही नहीं हो रहा है। इस वजह से average will be way higher than what actually. So your returns will have an upward bias. They look better than what they actually are. Am I clear?
Understood. Thank you.
Any more questions? Any more questions, guys?
So I got another question, but it's not related to this chapter. It's more about how do private firms come into being public firms? How do they go?
So you ask
public?
me on personal. You ask me. We can have a chat on WhatsApp, or you can call me, whatever. Because we'll restrict on these lectures. We'll restrict it to CFA.
Sure.
Rest of the guys, any questions? Very easy chapter, straightforward. Given है, ले लो marks. Chalo, then we kind of end this session today. We'll have one more small session again. So good night, guys. No more questions. Hiren is always in a hurry. Khatam karo. Okay. Chalo, good night. Bye. Take care. Bye.